everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. This is one of my favorite episodes that I do. In fact, it might be my favorite episode that I do every year. This is the episode where I do my New Year's resolutions. So if I was a destination marketer, which I am just on the vendor side, what would my New Year's resolutions be for 2026? And before we dive in, I've got a couple of funny things that I want to share with you. You know, we're anticipating, I'm recording this right before Christmas, and we're anticipating going on a little vacation with my family. We'll be gone over the course of Christmas. And of course, in true fashion, which seems to happen every time we plan some kind of family event or vacation or something, one of my kids last night, her lymph node swelled up like this on her neck, and we were like, oh no, something's wrong, of course, right before we're heading out of town. Well, I take her to the doctor. We're there till about 10 o'clock last night. She's got strep throat, and we're like, okay, so we go, we get her prescription and everything filled, and then this morning, another one wakes up with a sore throat. And that is just how, if you're a parent, you're probably just sitting there going, yep, that's what always happens. But it's funny how that just seems to happen. So I definitely had plans today to maybe be able to think through a little bit more and reflect a little bit more on what I wanted to talk about. But then when I sat down and started building what I wanted to go through, it just became so clear what I wanted to talk about. And I want to start with something because one of the things that's going on right now in the destination marketing space, in the world right now, is it just seems like there's this never-ending flow of bad news. And I actually think it's easy to get a little bit caught up in that and start to feel negatively towards your work, your business, what you're doing. And I want to share an experience with you guys that I had. So I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to go to an event. It was an entrepreneur event. There's a group here in Utah called Startup Ignition, and they do a lot of work with entrepreneurs, and they do a great boot camp. I actually have been through their boot camp. In fact, I went through it with Tourism IQ, the digital platform that we've built for the destination space. And it was just such a refreshing experience, because when you think about entrepreneurship and technology, you think about these stories of the people who were a rocket ship, right? And one of the things that kind of gets left out of a lot of those stories is how long was the struggle before they were a rocket ship, right? And so I'm sitting there in the audience, and they bring on one of the speakers at this event. His name was Brian Butler, and he's the CEO of a company called Alianza. And Alianza is a technology company in the telecom space. But the story is so relevant, I think, to all of us. And what he talked about is that their company actually died, I think it was 4 deaths before they actually hit rocket ship status. And they are now, I can't remember how many millions they're valued at, but we're talking like, when you think about the trajectory of a technology company, they're in the top 1% of 1%, and are definitely going to have a really amazing exit and success story for their business. But he talked about all the times over the course of the years, since I believe it was 2005 or 7 that he started the company, that he thought they were dead. And they just, there was one point where their biggest client went bankrupt. And so they went from having this massive growth in 1 year to all of that being gone. And they were in a massive cash flow crunch as a result. And then, of course, there was another big financial crisis that they went through during that time. COVID, again, had another really big setback for them. And you look at their chart, and it's just kind of, he was showing their revenue chart year over year. It was kind of up, kind of down, kind of up, kind of down. And then all of a sudden in 2023, it's just through the roof. And it was really cool to see the graph, because he shows year by year their revenue. And then once he adds on 2023 and 2024, you can't even hardly see all the previous year's revenue, because it's so dwarfed by what they did in 2023, 2024. And it's a good reminder, I think, that in a world where there's so much negativity, I think it's very easy to start to look at our business, our organization, our job, and it kind of feels like we're dying one of those deaths, right? But one of the keys to success that he really outlined in his keynote is survival is undervalued. And what he meant by that is that there is a value to survival that allows you to fight another day, that allows you to go on for another year. And I think all of us, whether you're in one of the troughs of business right now, or if you're in one of the big, if you're riding a wave right now, what we all need to recognize is there is significant value in the fact that all of us, as we look forward to 2026, have the opportunity to continue to progress, to continue to fight the fight. And as I sat down and reflected on my business this year, I feel like 2025 was one of those years that it's kind of like, come on, we can't win at a few different times. And I think a lot of you that I spoke with, I mean, that's the great thing about talking to so many people on this show is I get the opportunity to understand what other people are going through, the challenges that they're dealing with. And that definitely was helpful to me throughout the year to recognize that I wasn't the only one having a challenging year. And yet when I sit back and look at all the things we accomplished, one of the things that I've recognized and that I really believe is that success is nowhere near as good of a teacher as failure is. And we had several what I would call failures or learning opportunities, if you want to be a big optimist here. Over the course of 2025, we also had some wins that were really cool. One of the things that I'll start with as I was reflecting on 2025 is when ChatGPT came out, and when we started to see that these LLMs were really going to be a thing, I knew that destinations were going to need to figure out how to put an AI-powered chatbot on their site and be really effective with that and add it to the visitor experience. So we worked with several pilot destinations, and we really appreciate each of those destinations that were willing to pilot this product. And as we went through that process, 2025 was the year that we recognized we as a small agency did not have the resources to be able to compete with Guide Geek was one of the early ones that came on. But then I remember, in fact, I talked about this on my episode that I did with Michelle Donegan from Mindtrip. We talked about when I saw their demo, I said, we either would have to become a full-time AI software company or we need to get out of the AI software game with this specific technology. And so we decided at that point that instead of trying to compete in that space, we would let those that have kind of built a superior product go ahead and continue to push that forward. So I think our heart was in the right place, trying to build a product that was going to be really effective for destinations and help them get that AI integrated with their site. But in 2025, we recognized that it was a rabbit hole that we couldn't necessarily continue to chase or go down. And so that was an interesting learning experience for us. And I think as we move forward, I think we recognize that, yes, it's good to be first, but you also want to make sure that the path you're going down is tenable for the overall vision of your organization. And I think had we continued down that path, those two things would have continued to deviate and would have been a distraction. So learned a lot from that, but of course that product didn't work out. A big win from 2025 that was really cool. One of the most rewarding opportunities of my career thus far is, if you listen to this show, you know at this point that I have a second show that I do in conjunction with my co-host, Stuart Butler. He's the president of Visit Myrtle Beach. And we do this show called Destination Discourse, and it's really designed to have some of the uncomfortable conversations that many of us may not be prepared or willing to have in public. And there's some really courageous people who have been willing to come on that show with a hot take and say, hey, we think the industry is getting this wrong and we want to have a discussion about it. And we've really been able to have some amazing discussions on Destination Discourse. And ultimately, those discussions led in August of this year for Stuart and I to be live on stage at Esto, where we talked about a few different topics, and we got the audience involved. We did live kind of polling of the audience. We were able to let a couple members of the audience answer some controversial questions there, and it was just an incredible opportunity to be on stage and have some of those conversations that I think the industry is hungry for. I think that's why that show has really grown the way that it has. So that was an incredible experience. Thank you to all those who came to the session. I know there's many of our listeners that were there. And if you didn't, the good news is we have 2 additional opportunities for that. So Stuart and I are also going to be live at the South Carolina Tourism Conference in February, and we'll also be at DI Marcom Summit doing Destination Discourse live on stage. And if any of you are listening, I've got to tell you, of course, any of you that hear this, you must be listening, but I've got to tell you, if you're going to Marcom Summit, that is going to be an incredible session, and we probably have some surprise and interesting moments there during that presentation that I think you'll really enjoy. So thank you to everybody that tuned in and came to Esto. That was one of the highlights of my career. And then, of course, at the same conference, I was able to do something that was one of the other big wins and most rewarding things that I've ever done in my career. And that was, we brought 12 of the most interesting, intelligent, and innovative CMOs in the destination marketing space. We brought them together at CMO Jam. We did a roundtable discussion for an entire day, and we recorded the whole thing. And gosh, it was just some of the most insightful and interesting conversation I've ever had about destination marketing. And that's available on YouTube if you guys want to go see it. It was incredibly rewarding and a huge win for us as an organization. We also, there's this thing that I've been dealing with for several years behind the scenes that I haven't really publicized to the industry. It's a business challenge that we've had to overcome. And a lot of it stemmed from an acquisition of another agency that we made in 2020. And we've kind of been trying to figure out this big obstacle that we had that was holding our business back. And just recently, just at the end of 2025, we have finally been able to resolve that. And that's something that I really believe that now that that's gone, it's going to help us do so much more of the things that we want to do to continue to grow in the destination marketing space. And I feel so fortunate that we were able to overcome that. I'm not going to overshare here and tell you guys all the details of it, but I feel really, really lucky and really proud of the fact that we were able to work through it and that we're able to have all of our focus on 2026 be on growth and improvement and some of the things that we'll talk about today with our resolutions. Another thing that we did as part of our rebrand, we rebranded from Relic to Brand Revolt in 2025, in January of 2025. And one of the components of that is we really believe in the concept that content is critical to building a community and to getting attention. And our team has scaled up our content. We're trying to practice what we preach, right? And so from CMO Jam to the Destination Marketing Podcast to Destination Discourse, but then we've also ramped up our social channels. And kind of cool, I had my first viral video that I've ever been a part of. My team pranked me when I walked into the office for our Thanksgiving potluck, and it was drinking out of everything but a water bottle day. And Haley from our team was drinking blue Powerade out of a dish soap container, and I was absolutely horrified. So if you want to see that video that I believe it has over 500,000 views now on TikTok, I think it's got 60,000 likes on TikTok. So I guess you could say I'm TikTok famous now. My team did an incredible job putting that together, and it was really, really fun to kind of see where that went. And we're in the game of attention, right? And we were able to get a lot of attention with that video. And our team has done some amazing things just ramping up content to be able to get that attention that's so important. That's been just so fun to see that happen. We launched a show also called Unsolicited RFPs, where we actually just choose brands. The most recent one is a development in Mesa, Arizona called It's Cannon Beach and Revel Surf. If you want to see that, go look up Destination Discourse, Unsolicited RFPs on YouTube. And that show has just been a lot of fun and has actually, it's where we do it for content. But what's funny is we've sent those to the brands that we've represented, and each one of them has resulted in, at minimum, a conversation. So that's been really cool to do in the form of content. You're already pitching. Why not pitch in public, right? So that's been really fun. And there's been a lot of other stuff, like my team launched a marketing therapy series that's been really cool. Our design team has built a design series as well. And I'm just so proud of the content that our team has worked on to scale up, and it's been a lot of fun. And then we hit that 400 episodes of the Destination Marketing Podcast. We did that live Q&A with you all, and thank you so much for those of you that attended, that participated, that asked questions. That was a really rewarding experience for me to be able to do that and interact with you all live on that episode. We also had a listener reach out early this year who's become a really good friend of mine, and his name is Will Wright. He's from an organization called Destination Core, and over the course of conversation with him, we actually built a product that I'll talk about at the end of this episode. Some of you are already aware of it, but that's been really cool and rewarding as well. So again, like wins, losses, but I'll tell you what we did that I'm most proud of. We survived, and we're moving on to 2026, and that is one of the pieces of entrepreneurship that I don't know that I was prepared for when I started. The value of survival. And I would say those of you that are in DMOs, maybe you're having stakeholder issues, maybe you're having challenges coming from whether it's your internal team or maybe your website traffic is down, which I know a lot of people are dealing with that right now. Maybe you don't know how to move forward with AI, but let me tell you, if you survived and you're prepared for next year, you're already winning, and you've already got such a head start on a lot of different organizations. And so just know that next year, there's always a new year, and if you survived, you have the opportunity to have the success that you desire. And I'm really grateful for kind of coming to that realization this year. Now, let's get into the reason you guys are listening to this episode. This is my New Year's resolutions episode. What would I do if I were in your shoes running a DMO? This year was a whirlwind. I was able to go to so many conferences and meet so many of you in person. It was such a wonderful experience, and I'm grateful for every event that had me come speak. It is something that I'm continuing to do. I've really enjoyed it, and I want to continue to be able to speak at events. My spring is already kind of filling up for next year, which is a little crazy. I've already got a wild all-night flight plan to get from one conference to another, but I really would like to be able to come to as many conferences as I can so that I can interact with each of you and be able to share some of the things that I've learned and that I'm seeing in the industry and where it's going. So if you have interest in having me attend one of your events, whether it's a governor's conference or if you're one of the major associations in the industry, let me know. I want to make sure that I get it on the calendar as early as possible, and I can't wait to see you all in person. Reach out to me, adam@thebrandrevolt.com, if you'd like me to come speak at your event. So first of all, I feel so strongly about what I'm about to share with you all. It's something that I've learned over the course of the last year, 2 years, and I think we're to the point now where it's got to be gospel if you want to be successful in marketing in 2026. So number one, when we talk about the marketing funnel, I've had a lot of conversations on this show and on Destination Discourse about how things have changed. Technology has changed. Consumer behavior has changed. AI, of course, has changed so much of what's going on. And in today's media marketplace, it's no longer awareness, consideration, and purchase. When we look at that funnel, we're assuming that we can control things that we actually do not have the ability to control. So let me tell you, the new marketing equation for 2026 and beyond is attention plus trust, and I'm adding a component to this that I haven't said before on this show when I've talked about this. The additional component is circumstances. So if you think about, so let me do the equation, then I'll break it down for you. So attention plus trust plus circumstances equals action. And the reason I say circumstances, that's a new addition to this, is there are things that we don't have the ability to control. So for example, if you're a Hawaii and you're an aspirational destination, you have awareness. People know you exist. And in fact, they're probably considering you as a destination. What they don't have yet in some cases is the financial ability to visit Hawaii. Maybe they don't have the PTO to take that long of a vacation. There are circumstances that you don't have the ability to control, and pretending that we control it results in broken promises to our stakeholders. So again, what I'm shooting for, if I'm a destination marketer, is I want to get as much attention as I can. And then the currency that I'm trying to sell them is trust. I want everyone that is aware of who I am, that I get their attention. I want them to trust me for bringing value to them in some way, shape, or form. That value can come in the form of entertainment. That value can come in the form of education. That value can come in the form of inspiration. But you have to earn their trust. So attention, and then you're earning their trust. And then when the circumstances are right, they're going to book a trip to your destination. They will take action, but not until you get their attention, not until they trust you, and not until the circumstances are correct and match up with the type of vacation that you are. So I think that's really important as we think about the marketing funnel. Let's throw awareness, consideration, and purchase out the door. Let's not pretend that once somebody gets in the consideration phase, that we truly have that ability to control moving them from one stage to another. Let's instead build as much attention as we can, sell the trust, then let's make sure when their circumstances are right that we're prepared for them to take action. So resolution number two, this has become abundantly clear to me in talking with destinations over the course of this year. We need to optimize as destination marketing organizations for true relevance, not the illusion of relevance. And when you're only reporting on the statistics, the metrics that make you look like you're doing a fantastic job to your stakeholders, you are providing to them the illusion of relevance. And one of the things that's happened that I'm really concerned about in the destination marketing space is there's so much data out there. There's so many data companies that will give us a variety of different data. And what we're doing in a lot of cases is we're cherry picking that data because we want to protect our funding and we want to make sure that we keep our jobs and we want to play a little bit of defense. We put the metrics in front of our stakeholders that says, yes, things are going great. But what happens when all of a sudden global tourism decreases, even by 1% or 2%, is the house of cards that you've built can come tumbling down if you've built for the illusion of relevance. Because you can say, I'm getting you all these impressions, I'm getting you all of these clicks. And then the person on the other end says, but travel's down, tourism's down. I'm not getting bookings to my hotel. And all of a sudden, the house of cards you've built by creating the illusion of relevance is going to fall, and you won't be able to protect your funding. You won't be able to protect your job, and you won't be able to protect your future. And I just think it's so critical. We've got to start telling the brutal truth. If you're a vendor and you're serving the destination space, don't just show the metrics that make you look good as an agency, as a software company, as a service, whatever it is. Show all the metrics, or show the key metrics that matter that decide whether or not you're relevant. And if you're a destination, same thing. What is your ultimate impact on the destination? And I believe that there's some long-term impact that we don't report on. And I think that's one of the problems is we try to do so much to demonstrate the right now impact of what we've done. But if you're, let's say you've built an event over the course of this year that maybe didn't perform this year as well as it would, but you can show that the growth is going to increase for next year, the following year, and so on and so forth. Well, one of the things that's going to happen is in-person experiences that require people to be in the destination on a specific day for a specific moment. Those are some of the few things that destinations are going to be able to control as AI continues to capture the visitor experience or the potential visitor experience, especially the trip planning process. And so if you create an event that's going to bring value over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, well, that's value that's not tangible to today, but you've got to paint the picture of where it's going if you continue to maximize that event and build and develop that event. And I think so many of us are focused on showing the right now metrics and not showing some of the intangible things that we've done that are going to be somewhat annuities for the destination for the long term. I think you're reporting on the wrong metrics in some cases, and you're building a house of cards that is going to tumble at some point unless you're reporting the metrics that only map to true relevance in the destination. I hope everybody that's listening will examine what they're reporting and make the necessary adjustments in 2026, because the Doge effect, and I'm quoting Zeke Coleman here, the Doge effect is going to continue. It's not a fad. Everybody's going to be required to get lean. And one of the ways to get lean is to make sure that you're not reporting metrics as successful metrics that are not truly relevant and that they're not creating an illusion for your stakeholders. So that's really important. I also, as I'm talking to destinations in conferences, at CMO Jam, the one-on-one conversations that I'm having, it's just so obvious to me that stakeholder engagement as a marketing pillar and function is now a non-negotiable. Every destination needs to have a concerted and intentional marketing strategy that they've developed that speaks specifically to the residents, business stakeholders, and political stakeholders of their community. And unless you're doing that with an intentional plan that involves everything from creative, messaging, and through to distribution that includes paid, earned, and shared media, paid, earned, owned, and shared media, you are missing out on the opportunity to engage your stakeholders. And let me be abundantly clear here. I am blown away that we have so many destinations that when over 50% of their visitation is visiting friends and relatives, they don't have this concerted effort to engage the people responsible for over 50% of their visitation. You have to engage your local residents and stakeholders if you want them to be advocates for your destination, if you want them to actively invite their friends and relatives to come to the destination. But if you have locals that believe there's nothing to do here, guess what? They're not inviting their friends, they're going somewhere else when they travel. And I think that's something that you actually have the ability to change. So stakeholder engagement as a marketing pillar, it's a non-negotiable, and I hope it's part of your plan for 2026. The next one I think is really interesting. I've talked about attention, the marketing, the new marketing equation, optimizing for relevance and not the illusion thereof, and stakeholder engagement. The fourth one, sorry, I had to go back through that to count to see if this is the fourth one. But the fourth one is that earned media, as of right now, is the most valuable content for LLMs. And the reason you need to know that is that if that's what they're valuing and consumers are using these answer engines, the LLMs, if they are using them as their method of gathering intel and researching and preparing and planning a trip, you have to be there. And if they're valuing earned media higher than anything else, you need to ramp up your earned media strategy for 2026. And my opinion, as I've looked at marketing budgets all over destination marketing, there needs to be a percentage shift from your paid media acquisition budget to earned media. And you need to communicate to your stakeholders that this is a play for the long term to make sure that as AI continues to evolve and continues to get involved in the trip planning process, that you are building an earned media strategy that's going to make sure you're in the results as these engines are getting answers for the potential visitors that are planning their trips. And I think that's really important. I think those that continue to neglect earned media, and yes, this is coming from the guy who built his brand saying that owned media is the most important media that you can be developing. I'm telling you that if you don't shift media budget to earned media, you're likely to get left behind as these LLMs continue to value earned media in their results. And the caveat that I'm giving you here is as soon as that proves to no longer be the case, I will let you know. I'm telling you what I'm seeing with what's happening right now, but everything's evolving so fast that who knows, maybe earned media at some point will no longer be the most relevant thing for these LLMs. But I'll tell you, as of right now, you need a concerted and intentional earned media strategy for 2026 so that you can show up where you want to for these visitors in the LLM search results. Number 5, listen to Destination Discourse. That show has been one of the most intellectually challenging experiences of my life. Stuart and I dig very deep into ideas on Destination Discourse, and these guests come in with some unpredictable takes that really stretches my mind every single week when we do this. And I know that if you listen, it'll stretch yours. So listen to Destination Discourse. If you like this show, I think you'll get some really good profiles on this show of destinations and what they're up to and success stories and things like that. But if you want to be challenged and really stretch your ideas and understanding, go listen to Destination Discourse. I think it's going to be really valuable for everybody. Okay, the next thing that I'll say is the website, as we've known it for the last 15 years, in what I believe is a glorified directory, is dead. And if all you have is a glorified directory, it's time to make a change. And so customers are now expecting AI integrated experience on your websites. You need to implement it. It's going to be investment. Again, we're building for the future. If you need to move money around, move money around. But it's time to implement one of these AI tools that are out there, and there's lots of them. And I don't offer it anymore. That's not something I do anymore. But there's great products out there. I've mentioned two of them today, Mindtrip, GuideGeek, and there's others. But it's time to have an AI experience on your website. That's also a non-negotiable for 2026. If you have not yet budgeted for it, do it. I don't care if you're a small destination. This is what customers are expecting, and we have to evolve with our customers. The next one that I want to tell you is the partners you choose matters. And I don't care if we're talking software. I don't care if we're talking agency. I don't care if we're talking consultants. I don't care if you're talking another destination you're going to collaborate with. Every destination needs to look around and say, am I working with partners that we are going to be able to grow and evolve together? I'm really nervous about some of the rigidity that I'm seeing across the board. And with times changing as much as they have, having a 12-month plan that you and a vendor agreed upon that is unable to be changed or modified or evolved over the course of the year makes me really nervous for the value of those relationships, and it's causing an abundant amount of waste. There's a lot of money being wasted in contracts that can't pivot yet, but should have halfway through the year. So look at your partners, and if there's rigidity around your ability to evolve with the marketplace, make sure you're using the right partners that won't put you in that kind of a position. So that's an important thing. And again, that's not an agency pitch, although that's one of the partners destinations choose. This is every organization you're working with has to be willing to evolve with you. And if they won't, it's time to work with somebody that's going to move a little faster. The last resolution that I have for 2026 is, and by the way, I have focused on this in my organization for the last 6 months. And when I tell you that this change has paid dividends for us as an organization, and I don't mean financial dividends, although those are coming, it has changed the culture of our organization and the value we provide to our clients incredibly. It is time for every single person who's in a marketing department in a destination, or maybe you're a vendor listening, or any other organization, you must go in 2026 from a tactician to a strategist. There are so many resources out there now through AI that can help you figure things out that you don't know how to do. You can ask for step-by-step instruction on solving problems. So everyone needs to be a technology-enabled strategist, and the value you bring to your organization, to your destination, to anything is how you think. And if all you are is what you do, and all you're valued for is what you do, you're doing yourself and the organization that you're with a disservice. And you also are not protecting the viability of your job for the future, because there is a time coming, and I don't know if that's 1, 2, 5, or 10 years from now, when a lot of the doing and people who are only focused on the doing are no longer going to have value to an organization, because you can have an AI agent do that. Everyone needs to understand the why. Everybody needs to understand how to think from first principles and become a strategist and continue to help evolve an organization forward. And as you evolve personally as a strategist, the organization will get more sophisticated, more efficient, and more intelligent as time goes on. And it's a win-win for everyone. It protects your personal relevance. It protects the organization's relevance. I feel very, very strongly about this. If you feel like you're a tactician, level up now. You must become a strategist in 2026. So those are my resolutions for destination marketers for 2026. I think that if you were to do 5 of these 8, and I'm not going to tell you which 5, just you pick the 5 that are most relevant to you, you're going to have an incredible 2026. And some of the goals that I have for 2026, personally for our organization that I'll share with you is, number one, I talked about the partnership with Destination Core, that we have reimagined the website experience to no longer be a glorified directory, but to actually be a content hub where people can come and have a valuable consumer experience as they plan their trip. They can access all of the paid, earned, shared, and owned content that you've created in your organization in a much more palatable way than the way it's been done in the past. And it's going to be an AI-enabled experience. If you want to learn more about that one specifically, I'm actually doing a webinar with Will from Destination Core. It's happening January 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Destination Core and I will be on there. And then we also have Kyle Oland from Golf Tourism Solutions, who was the first person that we were able to bring this vision to and have them look at it and say, oh my gosh, yes, this is what we need. Now, the reason it was really important to him is because they produce a ton of content, and when you go to their website, it's really hard to get to it. And so this is the type of thing that's going to be really valuable for Golf Tourism Solutions. Any of you that are invested in content for 2026 and beyond, it's going to be really valuable for you. And if you want to learn more about it, make sure you check out that webinar on January 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern. The details are on my LinkedIn. And of course, we'll be releasing more details through email and things like that here shortly. So make sure you check that out. I also am that we built a product in 2025 and it's like 98%, but I don't want to release it until it's fully ready to go. Stakeholder Studio is a software designed to help you communicate with your stakeholders much more efficiently. Watch for that in 2026. We've got 20 destinations right now on a waiting list, and I can't wait to have them beta test it and get some of the early bugs out, and you will definitely see that launch in 2026. If you haven't yet checked out Tourism IQ, I think we're approaching 550, and I'd have to go back and look at the number, but 550 profiles created and people using the site. And then we've got a whole bunch of looky-loos. So if you're one of the people who have been there checking out all the content, but you haven't created a profile, make sure you create a profile on Tourism IQ. That's at mytourismiq.com. We also are taking this concept of CMO Jam that I did at Esto this year, and we're making it something a little bit different called DMO Jam, where if you want to have these roundtable strategy sessions like we did at CMO Jam, but in your destination with your team and your stakeholders, that's something that we're rolling out in 2026. And the pilot destinations that do that are going to get a pretty incredible deal for us to come in and do it. So I'm really, really excited for that as well. To wrap with Brand Revolt, the most critical thing that we're focused on in 2026 is being strategic partners for destinations that are not just tacticians. You're not just going to say, go place our ads. That's not the type of engagement that we're looking for. We want to help prepare you for 2026, 2027, and beyond. And we can do that by being valuable strategic partners to you as a destination. We've got some clients that we're going through that with right now, and it has been incredible, and it's so much more rewarding than what we were doing in the past, and we've got the team to do it. So I'm really proud of our team and excited for what 2026 is going to hold for Brand Revolt. All in all, you guys, 2025 was a wild year. 2026 is probably going to be equally as crazy, but I really believe that if you will embody these resolutions that I've outlined here on the show today, you're going to have an incredible 2026. I wish that for all of us. I wish it for our agency competitors. I wish it for the other vendors in the space. I wish it for every DMO. I want 2026 to be incredible for you. I hope you all have a wonderful year. I'm so grateful that you listen to this show. I'm so grateful that you're a part of it. And I hope you'll continue to listen in 2026. I hope you'll take a moment. The gift you can give me is to leave a rating or a review on the show and talk about why you value it. That would help me so much continue to grow the show in 2026. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.